Hello everyone, today we're going to be reviewing one of my favorite, if not my favorite microphone of all time. I wanted to make this review for a while, but the microphone was just not with me, so I couldn't do it. This is the Neumann TLM103, and this microphone was actually a big revolution in the world of audio back in the late 90s. It came out at about $1,000 to $1,200. Yes, that's how much I paid for it. It's very expensive. And it was used in pretty much every single studio that didn't have a U87 at the time. It has this bright sound that you can hear, but we'll get into that later. So let's start with the build quality. As you probably would imagine, for $1,200 you're going to get crazy good build quality. I mean, this thing is total of 500 grams without the shock mount or the cable. It feels so well built, and obviously these Neumann microphones are all handmade and they're made with extreme precision. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm coping with the fact that I paid a lot of money for this. It's genuinely how they make them. The grill on the top of the microphone has a tiny bit of give to it, but it should be fine. Still, it's not recommended that you drop the microphone, of course. It's a condenser and it's a little bit sensitive, even though it's very well built. The shock mount that it comes with is very efficient. It's not tilting the microphone too much. It is $150 if you want to buy it, which is actually insane. You can get $40 ones off of Amazon that do the exact same job and look just as good. But hey, there's the Neumann name on it, isn't it? And these microphones last a very long while. I have seen videos where these guys owned this TLM103 for about 20 plus years and it still performs perfectly fine. Obviously, tiny bits of dust can accumulate on the capsule, but otherwise it's actually insanely well built. Plus, it looks so good on camera and in frame. You can see how professional this is. Plus, the Neumann brand name carries a lot of weight with it. If you own a studio or you have a recording place, if you have a microphone like this, it may boost the sales a little bit, it may boost the trust factor of your place just because these are such renowned microphones and not everyone owns them. Now, when it comes to sound quality, I think I needn't say this, but this is one of the best sounding microphones there is, and I've tried the U87. I haven't tried something like the Telefunken U47, but come on. When it comes to the bass, there's plenty of bass, and it's tuned so well. It's the perfect amount of bass, especially for a thicker voice like mine. The mids on it are very fine. They're not too forward. There's a little bit of a bump in the high mids, so your voice can kind of stand out in the mix. And the treble is bright, but it's perfectly ungrained. That's the biggest difference that I can tell between a microphone like this and something like the NT1. Because even though the NT1 has a fairly bright sound that includes the Signature Edition and the NT1A, they're all a little bit grainy or sharp. This is also bright, but it's not fatiguingly bright. I don't know how exactly they do it in the frequency response or the tuning, but it works so well. And the bass does too. It sounds so natural, it's insane. I'm obviously using M50Xs for these, so it's going to vary between different headphones, but the sound is tried and tested and it's wonderful. I don't think there's any problems you're going to encounter. I'll be making an audio comparison between this microphone and a bunch of other condensers that are in different price points in a different video. It wouldn't be in this one. This video is dedicated solely to this beauty right here. Now, when it comes to features, this microphone is fairly bare-boned. There are no switches, there are no pads, there are no polar patterns except cardioid on this thing, which is fine. I mean, obviously, if you own a studio where there's going to be more than one source, or there's going to be two people talking from different sides or harmonizing or whatever, then you're going to have to opt for something like the U87 or many other options. Even the C414 is a great option from AKG, but obviously this only has a cardioid and that is way more than good enough for me. And this is why I record videos at 2 a.m. When it comes to off-axis rejection on this microphone, it does a wonderful job. The sound is inoffensive completely. You can hear that the treble is kind of gone. The bass is still there. It doesn't sound muddy. It doesn't sound bad. I mean, you're obviously supposed to record from the front, but have you went a bit off axis, you're not going to get a horrible sound that you're not going to be able to work on whatsoever in the mix afterwards. In terms of room noise capture, it's obviously going to capture a lot of details, including unwanted ones. So if you're going to be using this microphone in an unisolated space, then you probably should opt for something like an RE20 or an SM7B or other options, or even a smaller diaphragm condenser, because while it may sound clear at this distance, which is fairly close to the microphone, if I make it a little bit further, you can see that this is taking every sound in the room, including every kind of reverb. Mind you, this room is kind of isolated, just a little bit treated. If you go to a much more unisolated space, it's going to be even worse. This capsule also doesn't do way too well when it comes to pops, because even though there's a triple mesh layer, it is still fairly exposed. So I'm talking to it off axis, and that's why it's not popping as much. Maybe it's popping a little bit, I'll find out in post-production, but it's not popping as much because I'm not looking it dead in the eyes. And no, I will not demonstrate that that because this microphone is brand new and I don't want to lose any of its value, please. So why exactly is this microphone $1,200 and does it justify the price? Well, I'm not going to justify it for them, but a part of the price goes to quality control, labor, because obviously this is handmade, practically every other brand that I can think of at least. The high quality materials, the consistency of the sound between different units of the same model, for example. And lastly, and probably the most important factor, is the Neumann name. I cannot deny that you can probably get a similar sound to this. Obviously, probably not within the same level, but something that is fairly close from something like the OC18 from Austrian Audio, which runs for about $300 to $200 cheaper than this, which is not a small amount of money, and even more if you buy it from somewhere like Neumann, for example. However, besides the gorgeous sound that this gets me, there is a certain level of reassurance. It could be a little bit of placebo when dealing with microphones like these that you get with your recordings, is that I noticed that since I bought this microphone, and again, this could be a little bit of placebo, I could be a little bit biased, but ever since I bought this and I'm using it, there hasn't been a single time where I'm like, okay, this sounds good, however, I could probably work a little bit on the bass or the mids or the highs. It's a bit less bass, bit more bass, bit less mids, bit more mids, etc, etc. Obviously, that's not the same if I'm going to be recording a song. There's going to be some EQ work done, but for live situations, using my Rode NT1, my Rode NT2000, my Rode NTG3, every single one of those mics was like, okay, it sounds good, but, and I haven't noticed the but here using this microphone. I must be truly excited because I went through all of these levels without mentioning the technical specifications. So obviously it goes from 20 Hz to 20 kHz with a bit of a boost in the treble range, so it can give you this brighter, crispier sound. It has an incredibly low 7 dB of self noise, which at the time of release in the 90s was insane, but nowadays you've got options like the Rode NT1, for example, is 4.5 decibels, and obviously that difference is completely negligible at that point, but it's still insane at 7 dB. It's very unnoticeable, which, by the way, I want to add that the U87, that incredible piece of work, is 12 or 13 decibels, which is surprisingly more. I don't know if it's due to the fact that it has 2 capsules or the circuitry inside, but the more you know. So, do I recommend this expensive ass microphone? The answer is, if you can truly afford it, then yes, it's very worth it. But please, do not try to spend months out of your time or even weeks to try to save up for something like this. If you really want to get that Neumann sound, you can start with a TLM102. It's a little bit darker than this and it has a tiny bit more self noise, but it still has the same character that I really enjoy with the TLM103. It's obviously not the same microphone, it's a lot smaller, the build quality is even a tiny bit worse, but again, still sounds incredible. You can go for the AKG C414, which is, I think, a little bit cheaper than this. Do not go for the C214, at least in my opinion, I don't like the sound of that thing. You can go for something like the OC16 or OC18, which still sound incredible at being a little bit cheaper than this. There's something as cheap as the LCT 440 Pure. Again, all of these options, in my opinion at least, do not highly compete with this microphone, but for the price point, they may be satisfactory for your use case. Oh yeah, and one last thing is, if you decide to buy this microphone, if you have the money for it, if you decide that you like the sound and you want to get one, I will be putting a link in description that is an affiliate link. So if you decide to buy it through that link, I will love you for the rest of time. But yeah, I hope this video helped someone, and I hope that you have a very nice day. God knows I'm never gonna financially recover from this. Bye bye.